Godzilla. Who doesn't know the big guy? He's always been a political symbol, representing how devastating nuclear bombs are, along with how chaotic nature can be and how mankind cannot control it. There are also messages about land invasion and familiar themes, though I personally see those more as alien invasion films with kaiju, like how Ultra Q is essentially the Twilight Zone, but with kaiju. Godzilla is so popular that he reached the United States, and then an artist by the name of Matt Frank started drawing Godzilla and created his own versions called the Neo series. Everyone enjoyed these redesigns of the lovable nuclear dinosaur, and that's when he eventually became a comic artist for Godzilla Rulers of Earth, which went down in history as one of the best Godzilla comics series for the big guy. Then everything changed when he posted this. It's a drawing of Godzilla firing his atomic breath, what's visually a KKK member depicted as a monster. Along with the artwork, he added text directly attacking Trump supporters, referring to them as knuckle draggers, and framing them as enemies, rather than addressing criticism or separating individual people from political disagreements. I'll explain why this kind of generalization is a problem in a moment. My thoughts on this are that it wasn't just a warning sign of Matt Frank using Godzilla as a prop for his political views, but also show how badly he mishandled the character. Because let's get this out of the way, nowhere in the movies or across Godzilla's various incarnations does he do anything like this. Now, I'm not saying Godzilla is a racist. I'm saying Godzilla wouldn't care about this. He's a giant monster, essentially an animal who only cares about violence, survival, or punishing humanity for its actions, especially nuclear weapons and the forgetting of the World War II victims and veterans. I want to make this clear, I'm trying my best not to bring politics into this. My channel is focused on movie reviews, stop motion, and calling out awful people. Politics have no place here. So I'm just going to say this right now, fuck Matt Frank for calling these people racist. He's a clear example of someone who abuses the word, and I know people are going to ask, why do I care about this? Because I have a friend who voted for Trump. Him and I have different political views, and that's fine. It's okay to disagree politically, but you know what's not fine? Calling random people on the internet racist without any evidence. Because guess what? My friend has never done anything racist. In fact, it's the complete opposite. He's friends with people on the fucking rainbow. He's friends with me, Hispanic for fuck's sakes. And not only that, he helped me with the bullshit I have to deal with. Even someone else says the same thing, even though I don't agree with him about how cool the art is, but I can agree about how Matt Frank is abusing the word.
I wish you didn't go full retard because I enjoy your art. This is great stuff, Godzilla nuking the KKK, but you're calling everyone who supports Trump a knuckle dragger like voting for Weekend that Biden was any better.
I literally spit my drink out, laughing so hard at this. What a whiny little bitch.
I don't care about the language used here, but the creator responding to the criticism with public ridicule instead of addressing the points only escalate things.
The response to this old art of mine makes me want to redraw it. The big mad Trumpsters in the comments were fun playthings for a while, but I got other shit to do.
Instead of addressing concerns about generalization, Matt Frank responded by mocking and insulting people raising them. That choice reinforced the criticism rather than resolving it. This was a clear sign of how little he cared about his fans. He only cares about the fans who support not only his artwork, but also his political point of view. And remember, this would not be the last time he did something like this. Then the next day, Matt Frank posted this disgusting art. I have a problem with this. The topic of trans kids is something I am strongly against, and seeing him promote it shows how ignorant he is. The core issues with the idea of quote-unquote trans kids is not identity or expression, it's the consents and the capacity. Children are legally and developmentally recognized as unable to give informed consent to decisions with permanent or high-risk consequences. That standard exists to protect them, not to punish them. When people argue that children can't consent to medical transitioning, they are creating an exception to that principle. Once you do that, you open the door to dangerous inconsistencies. If a child is considered capable of consenting to irreversible or life-altering medical decisions, then on what basis do we say they cannot consent to other adults' decisions? Society already agrees that children cannot consent to things like alcohol, contracts, or sexual activities because we recognize they lack the maturity and long-term understanding required. The concern is not these issues are the same in nature, but the standards for consent is being selectively lowered. Either children are capable of informed consent for permanent decisions, or they are not. You cannot apply that standard only when it aligns with particular ideology and ignores it everywhere else. That's why many people see this as a safeguarding issue rather than a political one. When stakes involving irreversible physical changes, that threshold for consent should be higher, not lower, especially when dealing with minors. Protecting kids means erring on the side of caution, not experimentation. Not only that, but this argument also assumes that kids can handle permanent body alterations that cannot be undone. You don't have to take my word for it. There are interviews with trans people who said they were pushed into transitioning at a young age and later came to regret it. Many of them talk openly about the physical and psychological consequences and wish they had been given more time instead of being rushed into irreversible decisions. So for Matt to promote this is sickening, and I don't care if I get flagged for saying this. In my opinion, it is predatory behavior. Then someone asked him a question about it, and Mac responded,
"What's a trans kid? I thought only 18 or above adults could do the transition from their original gender to another."
It's a complicated and nuanced concept. Lots of younger folks begin to express gender identity well before puberty, and through therapy and counseling are able to determine if transitioning is best for them.
Matt, no, that's exactly where the problem starts. When you say kids can express stable gender identity before puberty, you're assuming the level of understanding and self-awareness that children simply don't have yet. Kids are still developing mentally, emotionally, and socially. They do not fully understand the long-term consequences, especially when it comes to identity and permanent decisions. Children often say things for many reasons that has nothing to do with deep or fixed identity. They may be confused, experimenting, seeking attention, or repeating ideas they have picked up from media, social environments, or people around them. In some cases, they mirror siblings, friends, or online influence, not because they truly understand what they're saying, but because they're copying what they see. That's why we don't treat children's feelings or statements as consent for irreversible decisions in any other area of life. We recognize that kids grow, change, and often move past phases as they mature. Assuming that early expression automatically means a need for transitioning ignores how child development actually works. This isn't about denying kids care or support. It's about recognizing that childhood is a time for guidance and protection, not for locking someone into decisions that they may not fully understand until much later. Watch these videos and you'll understand why I am against this. At this point, I don't see this as politics. I see it as something I believe is illegal and deeply harmful. Matt Frank supporting this shows a complete disregard for the long-term consequences, and the people defending it are ignoring the real pain it causes to children. Oh yeah, let's not forget this part. A fan actually explains their position calmly and even say they support LGBTQ, but they don't want political belief pushed at them constantly. That's a fair and honest response. And what is Matt Frank's response to that?
Again, what you are saying is you are not a person. You are a machine whose only purpose is to entertain me. I get it. I'm not a person to you.
You very much are a person. I didn't deny that. What I deny is shoving your political beliefs in my face every other day. I support trans and LGBT people. I'm gay myself. But one don't want to be constantly reminded on the problems of the world.
Then go play with AI trash.
That response says alone everything. Instead of engaging with a fan who respectfully and sincere, he chooses to dismiss them outright. That's a low blow, especially coming from someone whose career depends on fan support. I wouldn't be surprised if he's willing to alienate longtime fans as long as he keeps the approval of people who excuse this kind of behavior. At the point, it's not about discussion anymore, it's about ego. I've already made a separate video explaining what happened in more detail, so I'll leave a link to that video in the description. Then he drew what's obviously an all cops are bastards style image of Godzilla holding a police car, which goes back again to my previous point. To put it simply, what does this have to do with Godzilla? And here's one I'm surprised he got away with. Yes, I understand this was for charity, but I don't condone the fact that he's using pre-existing IPs to promote this fundraiser. I wouldn't care if he used his own original characters, but he didn't. Instead, he used established monsters, again, to push his message, this time using Gamera monsters like Barugan. To be completely honest, I kind of forgot where this originally came from, so I'm putting it here just to show how little Matt Frank actually cares about his fans.
Great art would be better if it wasn't political, cause I guess I can't enjoy things without someone fucking it up with political stupidity. Stick to drawing, bud.
So you've never seen a single Godzilla movie?
Just because the movies have a political theme doesn't mean the movie, as a whole, is political, unlike your drawing.
So just because the movies are political doesn't mean the movies are political.
She's a countess, Matt. It's yours who's trying to argue with Theme. They don't deserve the energy if they can't think critical at all.
Oh, I already blocked them.
As you can see, a fan criticized the art for being over-political. Instead of engaging with the criticism in a meaningful way, Matt responds it with sarcasm. When the fan explains their point more clearly, pointing out that having a political theme does not automatically make the entire work political, Matt continues to mock them rather than address the argument. Then someone else had to jump in and call these fans cultists, even though they are just fans who have issues with the political topics being pushed onto Godzilla, a character that has nothing to do with what's being discussed here. And instead of pushing back that kind of insult, Matt goes along with it and blocks them. It goes to show how ignorant Matt Frank is. Honestly, people like this user pisses me off even more because they're not helping the situation. They're just feeding Matt's ego instead of holding him accountable or calling out the behavior. This isn't blind hate. These fans are expressing frustration and they're being treated like an enemy for it. Now finally, the thing that made me dislike Matt Frank and something I don't regret on doing. Around September of 2025, a political figure by the name of Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to bring politics into this, but if you want my honest opinion on Charlie Kirk himself, there are some things I agree with and some things I didn't. But almost everyone can agree on this. His death was awful and not something that should be celebrated. With that said, would you really be surprised that Matt Frank responded to it like this? Here's the post he made after Charlie Kirk's death.
The reason we are giving so much more oxygen to CK's death than any recent school shooting like the one in Evergreen that literally just happened hours ago is because, in our society, white conservatives are the ones who do the shooting, not the ones who get shot. So this event has become an existential crisis for every conservative and centrist in America, who are now either begging for civility or showing outright hostility to anyone who isn't immediately falling all over themselves to denounce the shooting. Because they have just realized that, in America, no one is safe from gun violence.
The issue with this post isn't about gun control itself. The issue is using a person's death as a ritual tool instead of treating it with basic human decency. It treats death as a leverage, not a tragedy. That post doesn't start from someone died, this is awful, or violence is a tragedy no matter who it happens to. It starts from why people are talking about this death more than the other. That immediately turns a human death into a means to score political points instead of acknowledging the loss of a life first. This post doesn't honor the victims of violence. It turns a tragedy into animation and replaces empathy with generalization. Saying how white conservatives are the ones who do the shooting is not an argument, it's sweeping generalization. Even if someone believes there are statistical patterns worth discussing, collapsing millions of people into a single morale category is the exact kind of thinking people criticize somewhere else. It replaces nuance with blame. Also doesn't help that the post implies that people mourning Charlie Kirk's death are insincere, only upset because it hit close to home, or suddenly scared now that violence affects their side. That's dismissive, genuine grief, and replaces it with assumed bad faith. People are allowed to mourn someone's death without being turned into a political performance. Respecting the dead does not block discussion. You can say that gun violence is a serious problem, that school shootings deserves attention, and the policy conversation matters, without doing it on the back of a fresh death. Timing matters, and tone matters, intent matters. Using someone's death to shame others for how they grieve is not moral clarity, it's opportunism. Yet again, a fan gives their thoughts on the situation, and Matt Frank responded the way he always does.
Actually, no, they aren't. Unfollowing. Stick to Godzilla's shit.
Ah yes, Godzilla, the famously non-political franchise. White supremacists commit the greatest number of domestic extremist-related murders ADL, murder and extremism in the United States. 2020 to yeah, conservatives have always been the villains.
The profile picture of this guy.
Oh,
Tell me he's not a cook. tell me with like literally, like it's the equivalent of that meme of like be a cuck without telling me you're a cuck. You're not a cuck. This guy just he just oozes like just soy boy type insult shit, man.
Seriously, what does Godzilla have to do with Charlie Kirk's death? Then another supporter jumps in and starts throwing around boarded generalizations. This is exactly the kind of behavior that keeps reinforcing the problem. Instead of engaging with the criticism or telling people to calm down, Max allowed this kind of rhetoric to happen and benefits from it because it feeds his ego and shuts down dissent. And honestly, that says a lot about the kind of audience he's choosing to encourage. Now, without sugarcoating it, after seeing this, it pissed me off, so I went on my Instagram account and said something about it. I hope a popular artist replaces you one day. Yeah, this was me. I was angry and I said something out of frustration. I'm not going to pretend it was eloquent, but it doesn't change the larger issue. Then I started seeing other people agreeing with Mac since I already have blocked Mac on my main account. So I switched to my art account and decided to call him out directly for his behavior. Sadly, I don't have direct evidence of that conversation. The closest thing I have is this video because all of this was happening at the same time while I was calling out Matt Frank. Do I regret this? No. And I'll be honest, I would do it again if this means calling out the behavior like this and making it clear that using death, fear, or intimidation to push a message isn't okay. Final thoughts? Matt Frank is a popular artist who uses pre-existing IP to promote his own political point of view, something that nobody asked for. He is most likely one of the main reasons why we're seeing more people do the same thing. And when fans ask him not to do this, he either attacks them, insults them, or falls back on the same excuses every time. Godzilla is political. At this point, I might even make a separate video on that excuse alone, because I'm sick and tired of bad faith actors using it to push political ideology nobody asked for.
Can we talk about like the political and economic state of the world right now? Can we talk about what's going on with the environment? Can we talk about other things?
Honestly, I think Matt Frank should just start listening to the actual fans who are telling him to stop injecting his political views onto his Godzilla art. His fans didn't ask for this. If he really wants to make political art, he should have done it on a separate account using original characters instead of using popular IPs that don't belong to him. I also think he needs to take a step back from social media and seriously reconsider how he talks about the topic of trans kids, because many people see this as a complex and potential harmful, especially when it's handled recklessly or without nuance. Anyways, that's gonna be all my greenies. I might actually take a super long break after this because I'm not gonna lie, I got angry and sad while doing my research and gathering evidence. I also had to argue with Matt's quote-unquote fans who defends his art piece and his trans kids post, and that's really took a toll on me. I'm not just taking a break from YouTube, I'm also taking a break from calling out bad faith actors as well. This whole situation has mentally drained me, so I'm just gonna focus on my stop motion projects instead. I have Godzilla stop motion battles in the work along with reworking the Primario pals since a lot has changed. Anyways, this is Kyoji the Green Kaijin signing out. I'll see you greenies next time, and I hope you enjoy this artwork. Protect kids.